Uh, oh, great. Okay. I'm consenting to be recorded. And perhaps if there's anything specific you want me to focus on as I listen to your piece, I'm very much looking forward to getting to know you all. So who wants to go first? Lindsay. Great. Well, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about what you're going to sing, and then we'll have a listen.
Hey, my name is Lindsay Notaro. I'm a first-year master's student at Northwestern University. 23 years old. That's all really about me, but I'll be singing Il Padre Adorado from Idomeneo.
Great.
And the character is Idamante, who's Idomeneo's son, and this is right after my father's return and rejection, and I'm coming to terms with my emotions about being rejected by my father, who I had originally thought was dead also.
Great. Give me half a second. I'm just going to pull a score. I have all my scores here.
Okay.
Okay, Lindsay, go for it whenever you're ready.
Hopefully there are no technical difficulties. We're in my room today.
That's not a problem.
Il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo mi fugge sdegnato fremendo d'orror fremendo d'orror morire credete gioia d'amore or barbarite uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo mi fugge sdegnato fremendo d'orror fremendo d'orror morire credete gioia d'amore morire credete gioia d'amore o barbarite uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor uccide dolor.
Beautiful, Lindsay. Thank you very much. I love that aria. Actually, Idomeneo is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think the music is just wild and crazy and fascinating at every turn and so unexpected and so strangely forward-looking and yet so kind of baroque at the same time. It's a real masterpiece, an extraordinary piece. It's difficult to sell to audiences these days, but musically, it's just beyond belief. what can I help you with? Is there anything in particular you want me to talk about, or just kind of general impressions? I mean, you sing it very beautifully.
Just I guess general impressions, and maybe like if you have any ideas on like characterization that I could be doing as well. But whatever you have for me, I'm
Absolutely.
whatever you have.
Absolutely, absolutely. What other kind of Mozart pants rolls have you sung?
I'm working on Año right now.
Great. Yeah.
And that's it. This is my first Mozart pant roll, I guess.
Sure. So you no Cherubino or that kind of stuff?
I did the Carabino arias in my undergrad,
Right.
but that was a while ago and
Sure.
not the best.
Sure. And this is written for a different sort of voice than that in many ways. Yeah, often like a male alto or castrato would be singing these. So it is voiced differently, but there are similarities as well. So first thing I often listen to in a young mezzo, so especially when someone's 23, is whether there's actual mezzo quality in the voice. Because a lot of young mezzos are really sopranos who haven't yet found their top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't find that with you. I think there's a real kind of mezzo fruity quality to the sound, which I love. Now, as you create that wonderfully mature, rich mezzo color that you really have, and I think is really appropriate for this piece and for this kind of pants roll, make sure that the vowels stay pure. Like there's a difference between a real R vowel, R I know is like the most tricky one, or a real closed O, or an U in particular in Italian, that's pure and beautiful and full and complete, and one where you're just trying to manufacture mezzo-like sounds. So occasionally, like the U, I thought just needed to be more pure and Italian. That wasn't like a mezzo-y thing. I just thought that it's a difficult vowel for all Americans because it's ew is a mixed vowel here, and oo is really beautiful and hooty in the actual Romance languages. But your R is tricky. Now the R is getting a little bit muddy. It sounds almost like you're kind of manufacturing a color. And I'd like it to be just more, to have all of that color and all of that completeness, but to be a more honest vowel, a more honest R, Italian R, nice and tall. Really, R is the most complicated because it's right in the middle of the chart and it's easy to mess with it. Whereas actually, you don't have to do anything in order to make a good R. It's the sound we make, we're genetically made to make it as monkeys when, one of our tribes sees danger on the horizon and we turn around and go, ah! And like, as long as we do that as naturalistically as possible, all that happens is our lower jaw falls open. And then the sound resonates beautifully right on our hard palate, right in our front teeth, and it flies forward. But then we all get into like, screwing around with that vowel, and it really needs to be very direct. Nice and simple. Just let the jaw relax, open, barbaride, real pure, nice R. Padre adorato. Vowels, keep them pure, don't manufacture the sound. There's more juice to get out of the text in places. It's not really so much a diction thing, but especially in, so when we're singing modern English, we sing with bird R's and naturalistic accents, and we don't do too much with it. But say if you're singing Handel, the language is really heightened. So what terrible, we might kind of say in Shakespeare or in Handel, we might actually flip the R, whereas we never do that in modern English. It's kind of the same in Italian. This is archaic, Baroque, very high historical drama. So, or barbaride with a double D. Yeah, barbari. You can really heighten the language in here, especially uccide il dolor. It can be really heightened, and you repeat it so many times, it has to find its own expression and its own Handelian sort of color. So I think you can just get more out of that, as well as keeping the vowels pure. you repeat that text an awful lot. That's always the case with Mozart, and particularly in the historical ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to find new emotions and new colors every time it does repeat. And here it's dead easy because, you know, you find him and then you lose him again. Ritrovo, and then, you know, what is it? It's, what's the text? E lo perdo. So there's this excitement in ritrovo, and then this deep pain and disappointment in and searching in e lo perdo. And you can color the text in infinite different ways depending on how Mozart sets it. That's one of the beauties of Mozart, is that he never just sets something as a repeat for the sake of doing it again. It's always because it has a different color and a different underlying emotion. So you've got tons of opportunities, and I'd encourage you to go even further there. So we've talked about purity of those vowels, those two in particular. We've talked about just heightening a little bit the text. We've talked about finding all of the colors in the repetition. And the last thing, and this is where I talked about Mozart other pants rolls, they're all passaggio exercises. If someone wants, you know, voi che sapete, all we're listening to is how you get from C to F. That's what that is designed to do. It's what almost all of them do. And you keep good squealo on the sound as you get up there, but I think you need more kind of column at the back in the sound. It needs to have this column back here, you know, that space kind of behind your glottis that needs to remain open. So keep that space and that height in all of that passaggio work, you know. Feel that lovely column of air right at the back of your neck. That space in your kind of trachea. Okay? Try it again.
Okay.
It was beautifully sung. It's a really wonderful color you have. It's ideal.
Thank you.
Il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo.
Okay, can I stop you?
Yeah. Oop.
So it's easy for il pa, that first vowel to become il pa. And there's quite a lot of schwa, or even like traces of O slash mixed into that vowel that are giving you interesting colors. But I dare you to be just a little bit more direct with it.
Okay.
Il pa, just let the jaw fall open, put it there. Okay, and then ritrovo, that space has to be ready before you sing a ri. It has to be spinning, you have to feel it here.
Okay.
I felt like it was late creating space. The breath and the space always first before you engage the phonation, you know, set that space up. And then we talked about those colors, even more exciting. Lo perdo. Really move us at that point. Find the searching in it. Okay?
Il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo. E lo perdo. Mi fugge sdegnato, fremendo d'orror, fremendo.
That's great. Okay, so that's my next point. Is that that's really juicy poetry. You know, mi fugge sdegnato, sdegnato, fremendo. Wonderful words. Dorror. Juicy text. Yeah, there's loads of consonants. That labial approximant, that F there. You can really blow those sounds, V's and F's. You really got to put some pressure behind them and find the best point of friction. Fremendo. Like find where that creates the sound that you need. Fremendo. Hey, there's tons of R's in this. You need a relaxed tongue at the front, but make sure you keep space behind it. Fr, fr, fr. So there's tons of resonance behind. Dor, dorror, not dorror. Don't shut down the space when you sing the R, you know? Do it once more from the beginning, because you can find more space before re, re, and you might need to move in that vowel. It's a modification. Ritrovo. Your pianist is really recalcitrant today.
They're slagging. Yeah, they're not real. They're really not doing too hot right now.
Fire them, fire them.
Done.
Il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo mi fugge sdegnato fremendo d'orror fremendo fremendo d'orror morire crede di gioia e d'amore di gioia e d'amore or barbarite mucide dolor.
Very good, very good. Yeah, those G's are good. That idea of keeping the height in the passaggio, that's really working for you.
Yeah.
You know, here's a general observation. The kind of older a piece is, the more towards the Baroque, like as we go from Baroque through to classical, through to Romantic, through to late Romantic, this idea of tension and resolution gets weaker and weaker. So as you go back into the Baroque era and a piece like this, there's more tension and resolution. So that means almost more word stress. Now, I know there's not too much of that in Italian. It's more kind of long, short. T'amore, more. It's going to be the same volume, that final syllable, but shorter. More, just let it go, you know, so that you don't hang on to those final syllables. Well, I'm kind of out of time, but I'm going to ask you to sing once more from the top, because I think you've got tons of tools now and you're employing them beautifully. Let's see what happens.
Il padre adorato ritrovo e lo perdo
Search.
e lo perdo mi fugge sdegnato fremendo d'orror fremendo fremendo d'orror morire crede di gioia e d'amore di gioia e d'amore or barbarite
Space, make the space.
mucide dolor
Relax your jaw, don't spread.
mucide dolor
In.
mucide dolor mucide dolor.
That's very good, very good. Yeah. You don't want to press too hard on your passaggio. You know, it wants to constantly spin. It's easy for the spin to stop there. Keep that air vibrating, but don't put a ton of pressure on it. Just think height and ease and spin in the passaggio. Hey, Lindsay, I have to move on. We had a very short time. It's beautiful singing. For 23, that's a really lovely, juicy, colorful voice that has loads of potential. Brava. Let's give her a round of applause. Who's next?
I'd love to sing now that my video is working.
Is that Madison?
Yes.
I have to find you and pin you. Let me find you. Madison Garris? No.
Madison Marie McIntosh.
I got you. Okay, replace pin. There she is, looking gorgeous. How are you, Madison? Tell us
Very well,
about
thank you. How are you?
Fine. Tell us about you.
I am a mezzo soprano and I would love to sing Una voce poco fa.
Fantastic. I think I know this one. Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. I've
Lovely.
been based in Florida and New York recently, but traveling where the music takes me. And I've done the young artist programs of Paramore and Teatro Nuovo and the Rossini Opera Festival and the Sarasota Opera and recently Fargo Moorhead Opera. And I've been singing with some of the smaller companies in New York. And so that's a little bit about me.
Good. That's it. It gives me a good overview. Go for it.
Una voce poco fa qui nel cor mi risuonò. Il mio cor ferito è già e l'indor fote il piano. Sì, l'indor mio sarà. Lo giurai, la vincerò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai. La vincerò. Il tutor riposerà, io l'intendo lo gozzerò, alla fin saccheterò, e contenta io resterò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giorai, la vincerò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Io sono docile, rispettosa, sono obbediente, dolce e amorosa, mi lascio reggere, mi fa guidare, mi fa guidar. Ma se mi toccano dove il mio tema i poli saranno che sarò. E cento cappoli prima di te farò giocar. E cento trappole prima di cedere farò giocar. E cento trappole prima di cedere. E cento trappole farò giocar. Io sono docile, sono obbediente, mi lascio reggere, mi fa guidare. Ma se mi toccano dove il mio temore sarà una vipera sarò. E cento tropoli prima di
Thank you, Madison. Wonderful. Very good. That is a very hard aria. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed all of your abbellimenti. It's lovely to hear different ones every time I hear the aria. And yeah, very good singing. Is your pianist live?
Yes.
Yeah. She's doing a great job following you.
Thank you very much, Paylene. Yes, I appreciate it. My pianist is Paylene Cole.
Great. Well done. Well done. Let's start there, actually. So bel canto and this kind of thing certainly has a lot of freedom in it. And there are, traditions here and there, and there's plenty of places here where you can be cheeky and take time and insinuate and keep the audience kind of hanging. But ultimately these do have an orchestra, and once the conductor sets the tempo, it's got to kind of click in tempo. So the tricky thing about bel canto is that, yes, there's quite a lot of freedom in places. There can be quite a lot of push and pull in the tempo, in fact. But it still has really vital underlying rhythm that comes from all of these pattern accompaniments. But the way that is set and defined has to come from the singer. So in places you're giving an upbeat in tempo. And that upbeat has to lead into the tempo that the orchestra is going to play. And then when you're doing all of your complicated coloratura and abbellimenti, those sixteenths are going to have to lock in to something that's very regular in the orchestra, because they can't make concessions and put breaths in every other beat. So it's very good. Your coloratura is very good. This is nice accuracy. You're knocking through a lot of notes, but I think there's more rhythmic structure to find, especially in that second part. But even in the beginning, ba-bum, ba-bum, those rhythms have to be really perky and brilliant. Brillante in Rossini,
Yes.
Okay, piago. There's a strength in them. There's a strength in her in those double dots and those 64ths. And they don't ever want to get wishy-washy. Fukel, piago, even if the text is. You have to just be quicker with the text. So the rhythm is clear. Rossini is the most classical of the three triumvirate of Donizetti and Bellini. So he has the most reliance on musical structure and real motor rhythms. He's the most classical of them. We think of Stravinsky and his, No Word from Tom as neoclassical, having all of that rhythmic vitality, those ticking along sixteenths. Mozart doing the same in his piano concerti. It's the same with Rossini here. That diddle 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 diddle. It's got to be there. It's not wishy-washy like Bellini or Donizetti, where you might just kind of take your time. So could we do a little bit of the cabaletta? Io sono do, from where it's quick. Io sono docile for the first time. And as you add those ornaments, try and make sure that you're singing your upbeat in tempo, that you're leading your pianist, you're fitting your breaths in organically, and that it's got real kind of underlying rhythm.
Or from Io sono docile, please. After the interlude, after the piano interlude, if you wouldn't mind. Sorry, I'll be right back.
No problem.
Here we go. Io sono docile, sorrento
Okay.
Sorry.
So there you were ahead of your pianist. You got ahead of your pianist. You might be trying to push the tempo on, but like once it's going to be tricky, especially with an orchestra. It's going to be tricky to change, you know. So between those two phrases, you set a very fast tempo with the first time, perhaps slightly faster than I'm even used to hearing. But then, as that happened a second time in the new phrase, you even leapt ahead further. So I would like pick one or the other. Each time, like really, really clean. Lock into where your pianist is. Just try from there.
Aileen, I'll try to watch you. We are actually singing at a great distance
Sure,
in the
sure.
setup that we have here. So sometimes I can't hear the piano, so maybe I'll watch
Okay.
your hands more in order as if I were watching a conductor.
Great. That was already better.
Yay.
You know, just a little bit more of that rhythmic structure will give you great power in this kind of aria. You know,
it was definitely easier when I was watching Palin, yes, because I can't hear because we're so far apart. So thank you for that tip.
Yeah, I think you know it's partly the disconnection with your pianist physically, but I think some of it is a slight willfulness in the way you're interpreting. Kind of, you want to give this impression, you want to give this, but just come back to that kind of tactus now and again, so that it really has structure throughout. Okay, so the other thing is perhaps slightly more vocal, technical. This is a big voice you've got, especially for this aria. It's like big, has a lot of front on the sound. I can hear that in the room. When you get up to like a G sharp or something like that, there's a real quality in the sound. Like there's a completeness and a real, you know what I mean by quality in a voice. You know, there's a real quality in the overall tone, which tells me that the space is complete and that you're setting it up well in that vowel. It's the right sound. It's kind of a complete expression of what your voice can do up there. Sometimes at the top, perhaps the air is spinning a little slowly, like you are in control of the speed of your vibrato, even if you don't think so. Like keep it shimmering up there. But I love the top. I love it. It's a great sound. Now, in more of the middle voice, I feel like there's really good front on the sound. Like I'm getting a lot of squealer. The vowels are nice and open, but perhaps a little bit too wide in places. But most of all, I feel like the back part of the resonance is missing a little. And I'm not quite sure what is causing that. It almost sounds a little bit belty. And that maybe it's that the larynx is a little high in the middle. And what's that doing is, you know, there's this, I spoke about this nice space here, is that perhaps that's getting closed off because the larynx is kind of high and jamming into it. You know, that's something that we think about an awful lot in your voice type in the first passaggio when you mix into your chest voice. Now, the chest voice, I don't really have many concerns about. I think you shouldn't call it chest voice. It's not the same as musical theatre belt. The larynx should stay down. It shouldn't rise up as it does in a musical theatre belt. And it's more chest resonance that we're talking about. It's embodying, it's this kind of thing. You access that well. But above the first passaggio, above E and F, towards the second passaggio, that octave there, F to F, I feel like perhaps there's more back resonance to find. I want you to keep your larynx low and find that space back here.
Absolutely.
So try just from the beginning, I think. And as you're in that middle part of your voice, try and, yes, I want to hear the front of the sound, but I want you to keep this tall and open as well. So the vowels may be slightly less wide at the front, a little bit more streamlined and vertical, but feel the verticality here, okay? Thank you. Okay, Okay, you started una voce, and that was the same kind of amazing quality that we have at the top of the voice. Maybe overdone a little bit, you're gilding the lily there, but then you went una voce poco fa, and the sound became much brassier quite quickly. See if you can keep that wonderful quality and that height that you have back here throughout that phrase. Okay. Madison, that's fantastic. It's you're overdoing it slightly at the moment, and like poco fa was getting a little dark and perhaps coming off slightly the resonance. This is the balance. Like every singer throughout their life, every voice lesson for your whole career is about balancing the chiaro and scuro in your voice. Now, I think you've gone in that middle part, at least what I first heard, quite far in the chiaro direction. Tons of squillo, tons of mask, but that you were missing some of this back here. And you need to balance those constantly. When you do, it's really amazing. You have to do it above the staff. You have to do it at the top. Otherwise, those notes don't come out. Like you need to find that space somewhere. I need that all the time in your voice because it's a big, impressive instrument when you get that right. So that's actually my main kind of observation, is finding that balance between the passaggi. Because the chest access and the mixing that you're achieving there, I think is fine. I mean, you know, a voice teacher might work and quibble a little bit, but in the middle, not allowing that larynx to rise and shut down that space at the back, in the back of the trachea that exists behind the tongue, that's I think, a great thing for you. So rhythm and that little kind of observation in the middle, but lovely voice, lovely singing, very hard aria. You're doing great. Lovely to hear you, Madison.
Thank you very much. Lovely to work with you.
Pleasure. Okay, I think we have to move on.
I'd love to sing next, if possible.
Nick?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Caratora.
We should give Madison a round of applause.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Bow. Take a bow. Okay, let me find Nick.
Hi.
Oh, you just disappeared. I found you and then you disappeared.
Should I say something? Does that help?
Let me know. Let me just go to gallery view. I just have to find you and pin you. That's the problem. Wave or something. Wave so I can see you. There you are. Okay, got you. What are you going to sing, Nick?
I'm going to sing Salut de Murder Chaste Pire from Gounod's Faust. The little bit of backstory, Faust is an elderly scholar who kind of feels like he's gotten nothing out of life, and so he tries to kill himself, and that's when Mephistopheles shows up and basically gives him a chance to redo everything in exchange for his soul, and including the hand of Margarita. And this is, he now looks much younger and he's shown up at her house, and this is sort of his going through the feelings of actually getting what he might want, so to speak.
Lovely.
And my accompaniment track is from the Beyond Fabulous Arlene Schrutt.
Indeed.
Quel trouble inconnu me pénètre. Je sens l'amour s'emparer de mon être. Oh, Marguerite, à tes pieds me voici. Solide mere chaste pire, solide mere chaste pire, où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine. Que de richesse en cette pauvreté, on serait dit que de félicité, que de richesse, en cette pauvreté. On serait dit que de félicité. Oh, nature, celle-là que tu la fis si belle, celle-là que cet enfant a dormi sous ton aile, a grandi sous tes yeux. Là que de ton haleine, avec la passe à l'homme, divise avec amour, épanouir la femme à cet âge des cieux. C'est là, oui, c'est là. Solide mere chaste pire, solide mere chaste pire, où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine. Solide mere chaste pire, où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you, Arlene. Lovely. It's quite a sea you've got there, man.
Oh, thank you.
What else do you sing?
Fuori del Mar from Idomeneo also. And I was probably going to combine that with maybe Deines mein ganzes Herz and maybe O Soave Vision from Edgar was probably a package.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, that's good. I kind of expected something like that. And of those, I think kind of Salut is the most traditionally lyric of those, you know?
Sure.
Because it's, you know, the voice has some carry when it gets going. Yeah, that would fill a house. And Faust it's a full lyric role. You really do need to be heard over quite a large orchestra, but in the most lyric way. So like that, I think that's the aspect that I'd want you to focus on, because you have all of the notes very well. And a lot of it's very good. Like a lot of the vowel sounds are very close, and you're managing a lot of the technical challenges of the aria very well. But it's a deeply romantic moment. You know, it's a deeply romantic moment for him. It's a deeply romantic moment in musical history generally. This kind of wonderful middle romantic period in the French kind of repertoire is so lush and so definitionally what we think of as romance. So I just want to work on the lyricism of the piece. So what does that kind of mean to you, both vocally, and what does that word mean? If I say sing more lyrically, what on earth does that mean? It's tricky, isn't it?
Probably less aggressive, probably even less marcato, if I, you know, put a term.
Okay, yeah, definitely emphasizing the horizontal over the vertical. That's definitely the case. And you're talking about aggressive. I don't know if anything needs to be aggressive. I mean, that's an overstatement. There are certainly pieces that are aggressive in nature. But I'm not sure like an aggressive vocal approach is ever necessarily the best or the wisest. This certainly isn't aggressive in any way. Nothing about it is aggressive. And particularly the French style, which is, I think, the most difficult for people to grasp. It's the most advanced of styles. It's the most elegant and, you know, suave and little kind of highbrow and supercilious. With it's you know, it's quite esoteric, the French aesthetic, and the French language is very glacial. You know, it has very little word stress, a kind of minor movement towards the end of the word, and a very low kind of arc in its sentence structure. So for me, lyricism is both that kind of that horizontal arc, and then I'm going to get into the word phrasing, which is what I really want to work with you on. And then, but it's also about flexibility in the voice. So like, if I want something, you know, that's something that I have to have in a bel canto singer. A bel canto singer has to be able to show me flexibility. The ability to crescendo and decrescendo on a note. A messa di voce was a very prized ornament back then. I need to have a range of colors in the voice, like Callas. You know, you feel like she has this pair of bellows underneath her voice, and her voice is living here and doing all of these coloratura things, but this bellows that controls the dynamics and the color is totally independent from what's going on with all of these runs and scales. That's lyricism, that's flexibility. So you're making a wonderful sound. It's a very good sound. The quality is excellent. I like the vibrato. There's a couple of vowels I'd tweak, like your closed E's are not quite closed enough for French, and your OEs, de murder, can actually be taller. They're a bit de murder at the moment, de murder. Those OEs are a bit taller in French. But most of your phrases, and if there's a way for you to start kind of at the aria proper, and this is partly Arlene. She's giving you a bit of a slow tempo and then not moving much in the middle. I'm aware of that. But there's no connection between one phrase to the next. Like your onsets are okay. They're not terribly abrupt. But your offsets, the phrase just stops. I walk off a cliff at the end. Shastipide, salide, shastipide. I feel like things just stop. So that connection needs to be both dramatic, like you have to be, your thought has to be going to the next sentence, the sentences have to be connected, but it's also dynamic. Like you have to taper the ends, you have to taper both the onset and the offset, and then I have to feel some sort of bloom in the phrase. A phrase is a natural arch, and the more lyrical it is, the more arch-like they are. Now we might mix that up, You know, if it's a declamation, we might want energy at the front because it's a declamation, you know, and that's going to change the shape of the phrase dynamically. But if it's it's going to have this natural arc shape. And I'd love to find more of that. Can you try that?
Absolutely.
Okay, even there, Wiener. Like, you have to keep it's imagine it's a cellist. The left hand stays vibrating until the bow has left the string, and there's natural reverb, and I want that in your voice. Okay. Like, so that might be technical. You might actually be closing your throat at the end of the phrases rather than leaving the vowel open and vibrating, even though you've stopped phonating. Supposed to where you're actually closing the space. Sure. So that it might be a technical thing. Let's try it if it is. But already that felt so much more human and natural. And you have to find that, and you have to do it a little bit more actively for me, because the sound is great. And then, you know, you can start to think in the recitative that is much more declamatory. You know, there's questions in there, and questions tend to have energy at the end, because our voice rises as we go up to the end, you know. Exclamation points often have energy at the front. So you can shape those phrases in a different way, but let's find that lovely lyricism in the middle. I think that will really help. Let's do that once more, and give me even more, and think about not closing your throat at the end of sentences. And then, how do you close an E? What do you mechanically do to close an E?
I think of sort of the back of my tongue touching top molars.
Okay, yeah. So what are the tongue vowels? Yeah. E, tongue vowels, yeah, and then lip vowels.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So as we go, the back of the tongue gets higher and higher. Yeah. Officially, when you're closing an E vowel, that you shouldn't necessarily do it with your tongue, because then you're actually changing the vowel. You're changing the space. You're going from E to I. Really, it's about the space between the back molars. Unfortunately, that's all mechanically connected. So your tongue is going to rise a little bit as you do that as well. But just think a little, it's like the check on how big an E is how much space there is between your back molars. Wide open, E. But it's not really your tongue that's doing that. It's how closed your jaw is. So a really tightly closed E, it's like having a piece of paper between your back molars. You know, but the tongue doesn't have to be up through your nose. And perhaps that's it, yeah. And if your tongue's a little lower, then you can get more space and color in that. But you're just having a little less space between your back molars. Divina. And then your tongue's going to rise for Vina. Yeah. Okay, try once more from Salut. Spin.
Solidem chaste
Yes.
Où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine.
That's so much better already. Well done with that E adjustment as well. That was entirely a French closed E to me. E divine. Just less space between your molars. Yeah, that idea of not closing your throat at the end of phrases, that's not only helpful in terms of making them sound like human phrases, but it stops you banging your mechanism. You'll get so much less tired if you do that consistently. This is a great voice. I've heard 3 great voices today. It's really great singing. This could be your aria. Like, I mean, that's a big C for it, and that at the end gets quite brassy, I suppose. You know, people often have a voix mixte sort of effect for that C. If you want to hear you want to be blown away, our principal voice teacher, he's actually working virtually in the studio next door at the moment, is Neil Shikoff.
Mm-hmm.
Go online and find an old recording. It's not conducted very well. Find an old early recording of him singing that aria. It'll blow you away. It is mind-blowingly good singing, and the C is outrageous. You just can't believe it's possible. Very nice to hear you, Nick. Lovely
Thank you
singing.
so much.
Thank you. Yeah, enjoyed that very much.
All right,
Round of
wonderful.
applause for him.
Yay. All right, I think we have, okay, yes, we have our last singer, and that is Charlene.
Hi,
Okay.
Charlene.
After Charlene, I'm not sure if we'll have time for question and answers, but we'll talk about that after we're done. All right.
I'm okay, but we'll do our best. Charlene, where are you?
Hi, I'm right here. I'll be waving until you find me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Okay, you're a little quiet. Any way you can turn your mic level up a bit?
yes, forgive me. I had it optimized for once the singing starts and it won't cut. I'll just
Sure, that's
turn it
okay.
back.
That's okay. What are you going to sing for us?
I will be singing O del mio amato ben by Stefano Donaudi. I am 26. I actually am just finishing a community college program and transferring into a university. I'm following the advice of a teacher that says you want to get in over your head and then figure it out from there. So here we go.
What key are you singing this in?
The original, which is in A flat. So this song was written in the male perspective. I'm choosing the words from the female perspective instead.
Well, the female singers are the legendary ones in this song, and it is one of my favorite songs ever written.
Awesome. I hope I do it justice. All right. O del mio amato ben, perduto in
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to have to go away after this and listen on repeat to my favorite recordings. Real moments of infinity in music, as the great recordings by Claudia Muzio and Rosa Poncel, the great Rosa Poncel, and both of those recordings are desert island discs for me in terms of like the greatest singing ever put to record. Yeah, that is a beautiful voice, beautifully pure. Your vowels are very well formed. You have a real accurate sense of what all of those vowels should sound like. They're not messed with too much. They are done very well. Your intonation's lovely, and very direct expression. Lovely pianist as well. Lovely shaping of that song. So well done. It's great. You know, as you develop, I want you to keep all of that beautiful purity of the vowels, that intonation. It's just at the moment your breath is a little bit locked. So like what we talk about as spin and vibrato and that kind of thing, you have gentle vibrato in the sound. The sound is quite straight, which is that gorgeous purity at the moment. And you know, as you get up towards your passaggio, things can get a little bit tighter there. But once that your breath is spinning and is a little less kind of static, those spaces will really easily open up, and you'll be able to find that manipulation through the passaggio a lot more. So why don't you start once more from the beginning of the piece? Oh, del mio amado ben. And just for me, try and think of all of the vowels as being, even if they go a little bit to pot, like as just being more of, yeah, even if they go out the window a little bit, the purity, the definition between them, think of it as one big vowel. And I just want you to think of the whole thing as one breath. And I want there to be a kind of bubbling engine underneath down here, right at the bottom of your support, that feels like it's constantly kind of, you know, bubbling around. And the most important thing here is that your larynx stays down. Give me a few. Yeah. So the larynx is really low. But it's, you know, it's so easy when we prepare to sing for the larynx to raise up like this and then block off a lot of resonance. Whereas what it actually needs to do is tilt forward, but stay low. And that slight tilt in the larynx kind of almost helps, at least visually, kind of keep the sound in these bones here. Just sort of tilts the sound forward towards that. But the larynx and this space that I've been talking about all day, this space here, this it gets right down in here. That has to be kind of open all of the time. Even when you go up to del, not where suddenly your larynx comes up and you block off the resonance. So try and keep that spin going. Allow the spin to happen. Don't force it. Allow it to happen. Lovely. Did you still feel with like, I don't mind if it gets like dull. For now. That's it. You do. I want you to find this space here at the back of the neck. Like this is a gentle lean on these bones. That's your resonance spot. That's like your fingerboard, you know? But you need the whole belly of the instrument behind it to make those beautiful sounds. So larynx here, physically down, feel a kind of slight tilt that gives this kind of squeal, and then this big kind of lovely column. You're finding some beautiful sounds there, Charlene. You know, you have to feel that you've got this space hopper underneath you. Like if you ever work with Deb Birnbaum, who's a wonderful breath specialist, she might even have you bouncing around on a space hopper. Like your breath and this spin, this engine, needs to be this wonderful kind of flexible thing down here. That's constantly kind of rotating, constantly bubbling. And then you feel that larynx can be free to vibrate. It should be a natural thing. Yeah, that's good. There's actually more freedom in the sound already, you know. That's kind of how I'd like you to work, is with that kind of freedom of breath, that keeping that larynx low, but not losing any of the beauty and naturalness of what you're doing already. Hey, a couple of tiny little Italian things while I'm at it. When you have that lambda, gnocchi, it's really light. So here's your palate, and the tongue just goes gnocchi. It just barely brushes and pulls back. Gnocchi. Yeah. It's and yours was about gnocchi. It was very Russian. Gnocchi, you know, gnocchi. It's very light sound in Italian. That can be more liquid, more easily legato. Let's give Charlene a big round of applause, and I'll try and answer some questions. Brava, beautiful to hear you. Thank you for that song.
Awesome. Congratulations to all the singers. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so we can do a few questions.
I'm happy to.
So here's the first one from Ian. He asks, as the director, what do you look for in artists who want to audition for the Young Artist Program and ultimately the opera company? What do you look for as the director?
Well, you know, I'm looking for the best singers, the best young singers in America is kind of what we tout ourselves as doing. There are some provisos. I think this is a later question. Like when I take people into my program, they have to be ready to cope with the responsibility of singing a role on our main stage. Now, sometimes the first year is going to be more developmental, kind of getting them towards that, especially if there's not a kind of lot of opportunities there. But putting someone on the main stage of the Kennedy Center at the Opera House, which is 2,200 seat theater, requires a certain level of technical competence and stage expertise in order to be able to fulfill that. Because if I'm going to take someone into my program, I need to be able to give them opportunities. And it's getting harder and harder to provide opportunities. And if you're not ready for those opportunities and you can't do them justice, and my casting director isn't going to cast you into those opportunities, it's the wrong program for you at this point. So you're really pre-professional. I'm looking for the best young singers in America at a program at this level, and they need to be stage ready. Like, I'm not going to say there's plenty of stuff they might be working on. Yeah, it might be technical things, but there has to be a base level of our comfort and trust in putting you into a responsibility of that magnitude. Yeah.
Here, Brittany is asking, how heavily does an artist's resume weigh on your decision to hear them pass the pre-screening?
Yeah, I make a personal point of, we've always required recordings for our pre-screening. Now, I have worked for summer programs where there are so many applicants that initial phase has been done just through resumes. I didn't like that so much because you know you're leaving people out. For me here, the resumes are pure curiosity. I much prefer hearing a blow away, amazing pre-screening tape with a surprisingly short resume and being like, oh, I bet no one's discovered this person yet. That's the most exciting combination for me, is like an unusually small resume, but a fantastic tape. So I personally listen to every single recording I'm given. You know, it would be a lie to say that I listen to all of every recording, because that would be, it costs me hundreds of hours anyway, the amount of listening I do, hundreds and hundreds, I'm not kidding you. And that's of concentrated listening, but you don't need that long to get what you need to know. And I will always click on, you know, at least 2 other clips. So yeah, I make a point of pride to, yes, I'll read your resume because I want to know who you are and I want to know a little bit about you. But it's purely informational. I make the decision based on the tapes.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions. So from Samantha, Samantha is asking, is the age 30 pushing or so? Is pushing 30 or so with a larger voice? Are those singers considered for larger yaps?
We don't have an age limit. We don't state an age limit on our program. Solomon Howard entered the program, and I think he was 34 when he entered our program. He's one of our most established, larger voice, big kind of, you know, bass. Lower voices tend to take longer, big voices take longer. That said, you know, if you've been out in the world after graduate school from the age of 23 and you've spent 7 years knocking away at it and you're still not kind of checking certain technical boxes or making progress in certain areas or still struggling to get the experience that you need, to be horribly harsh and real, unless there's been a big gap, and that's quite often the case where you step away from singing for a few years. Maybe you have a kid, maybe you get married, maybe you come back to it later. But if you've been plugging away at it for that length of time and you're still not quite, you know, making the success that you might hope to, then there might be a reason. So, you know, for the people who are getting up into their 30s, I'm probably expecting them to have done some young artist programs, to have done some summer programs, to have been building a resume. And if I do take them, I am conscious that it's a developmental program and they can be psychologically quite hard. By the time you're 30, you feel like you kind of should be out there and working and knowing what you're doing. So just being constantly coached and criticized, and that's basically what a high-level young artist program is. It's constant. It feels like constant criticism. It's actually constant access to a faculty of experts who are there and employed to make you better. But it feels like constant criticism because that's their job. That's what they're paid to do, is to try and help you get better. But that can be hard by the time that you're that age, you know? So yeah, I've had people who are 48 applying for a young artist program, and it's still called a young artist program, and there is a reason. There is kind of a way people develop and the way voices develop and the way we expect you to have experiences. And there does come a time after which it's going to be tricky for it to happen, for the career to take off. But for bigger voices, sometimes people get discovered at the age of 35. Renee Fleming didn't really launch her career until she was 30. I mean, she's the first to tell you that. So yeah, that was as honest a response as I can. There are always exceptions. There are always interesting cases. Certainly bigger voices, larger voices, lower voices can take longer to develop. And so 30 is not a cutoff point at all.
Okay. And the last question that we'll take today from Lauren. She is a junior year undergraduate, and she's asking, when is a good time for one to start applying and auditioning for a YAP? Is it before or after grad school? When is a good time?
The best thing for you to do, and the way the big year-round programs find you, is to be auditioning for summer programs. Because that's where most people will hear you. It's where most people like myself have the opportunity to travel in the summer. And it's because the summer programs, they take like 30 young singers rather than 5. There's much more reason for people to go and see those festivals and hear all of those artists in auditions. And there's a real hierarchy that you can build your way up. So you can start with the pay for sings. You know, you'll get great experience at Aspen. You'll get great experience at Interlochen or you know, the pay to sings, the Chautauquas and that kind of thing. And then, you know, there are kind of the mid-level ones where Central City is excellent. You'll get great experience there. Des Moines is doing superb work. Glimmerglass is fantastic. You'll get great work there. Wonderful experience. And then the big ones that pay the most and provide perhaps the most experience, the most exposure to the business are Opera Theatre St. Louis tends to skew young. It likes young, talented ones. So that's one to apply for early, even when you're an undergraduate. They like to find them young. Wolf Trap, superb, always has been, always will be, I'm sure. Superb. Merilla, it's great, can lead into the Adler year-round program. And Santa Fe, which tends to go for slightly older, experienced professional singers because they are actually performing professional roles in a really high-level company. Okay. So it tends to have slightly older artists. So do the summer programs, and then as you finish your, if you feel you're ready after undergraduate, by all means apply. But like for the higher level ones, most people have, most of our singers have in my studio have a graduate degree generally, or kind of similar level experience.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Rob. All right, so if anyone has further questions, is it okay for them to email you at Ainsley?
Yeah, Ainsley at kendi-center.org. Yeah.
Okay, I just sent it in the chat, so everyone, you can go ahead and take that email address if you have any other questions. All right, so we have to end now. Thank you. This was a wonderful session.
Pleasure. Enjoyed it. Lovely to meet you all. Thank you for the beautiful singing.
All right, everyone.
Rest of the convention.
Enjoy the rest of the convention. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.